Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, and hope you're doing well. So I'm out for a little walk here in sunny Southern California. Not very sunny, it's actually pretty overcast, it's chilly, 8 in the morning in May. So, well, Texas is raining right now, so I guess today at least California has better weather. Anyway, what am I doing in California? Well, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, we have 3 locations. We have our Southern California headquarters in Laguna Hills. Actually, we call that our Irvine campus. We have our Dallas-Fort Worth campus in Flower Mound, Texas, which is our Texas headquarters, and then we have Austin, Texas. I am in our Southern California office. I taught the class yesterday, and I will be in our Austin campus next weekend, but I won't be teaching it. Master Dave will, so by the time you guys see this, this is all long gone. But anyway, we do make it out to our, the black belts do visit the other campuses periodically or regularly, whatever you want to do. But the reason why I kind of want to do this video is because I'm here. I'm going to be at 3 different campuses in the course of 7 days, 8 days, and kind of brings up the question, is it okay to train at multiple academies? Well, obviously. At KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, where we have 3 locations, it is, right? But what if you're not at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, or you're not at another school that has multiple locations? Or what if you want to train at multiple locations in the same town? Is that something you can do? Well, technically, the answer is yes. And it really comes down to what your professor is okay with. Because unlike a regular gym membership like the YMCA, 24 Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, Gold's Gym, and all that kind of stuff, where you obviously can have multiple memberships, a jiu-jitsu membership sometimes, not all the time, can be a little bit different. If you're in one of those schools where they have 300, 400, 500 students, and the owner of the studio, you don't really know, he doesn't know you, and there it's probably just like a financial transaction. So does it really matter? Probably not. Let's say you just want it to be convenient. Sometimes you want to train in the mornings, and the one near your house is best for that. And sometimes you want to train in the evenings, and you kind of want to miss the traffic home, so there's one by your office that's pretty convenient to train at. So you want to train at both. That's fine. Go and do it. Now, one of the questions that comes up when you do that is, which belt are you going to wear? Let's say the schools have different criteria, and at one school you're a white belt, and another school you're at a blue belt. Then, which belt are you? Right? Because remember, if you remember, I've done videos where if you go to another school, well, I'm not taking my belt off. I'm a blue belt. I earned this blue belt, so when I go to another school, I moved or whatever. Then my professor, the new professor, can't take my belt away. Well. See, that's a question you're going to have, or you're going to have to discuss when you train over at 2 studios, because, if, it always comes down to, you come to his place, you sign up, and, oh, have you trained before? Yes. Where? And you tell him where. Oh, wait a minute, that's just right across town. Are you still training there? Yes. Okay, what belt are you? Blue. And then it's up to the instructor to recognize your belt or not. Now, what if one instructor promotes you? Does that mean the other one recognizes your promotion too? I don't know, right? That's a question now. I guess you could do it where you wear one belt at one studio and another belt at the other studio. You have to carry 2 sets of gis because, most schools will often, require you have a patch on your back. Some don't. In that case, you just have generic gis. Another thing is, what if you like to compete? And when you compete and you train, let's say you train equally at the 2 places. You go Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one place, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at the other place. And then you decide to compete, and both schools are active competition schools. Whose flag do you fly? It's a good question, huh? At the same time, let's say, okay, I'm gonna wear both patches, for the tournament. Okay, that's fine. So what team gets your gold medal? Right? Only one will get it. You know, and when I say get it, I mean not going to take it from you, but you know, which team will get the points that you earned from your gold medal? I don't know. These are all valid questions. You know, kind of let you in on a story once. When Dave and I were training, I was still a brown belt at the time. You know, Dave and I, we go way back. But when I was training with him as a brown belt, this was like around 2008 or 2009. And he was telling me a story one day because he and I both were in that transition period when Gracie Torrance and Rickson split up. You know, Rickson ended up opening his original school, Pico Boulevard, West LA, and Gracie Torrance was still on Carson Street. And you know, I trained at both places, as did Dave, as did a handful of people. And you know, one of the things that kind of came up was we had a competition. It was Rickson School versus Gracie Torrance. And I actually represented Gracie Torrance in that one. And you know, beat a couple of the guys that I ended up in the bracket against in that, you know, dual school tournament. And it felt kind of weird because, you know, I trained with those guys, but I ended up competing for Gracie Torrance. And you know, that did kind of put me in an odd situation. I do kind of remember that. And then you know, so I never had this conversation with Rickson or with Horian or Hoyce or anybody like that, but Dave was telling me about the conversation he had with Rickson, where he went over to train with Rickson, and Rickson kind of looked at him and goes, "Oh, you're training here, huh?" And then Dave goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I thought you were training at Gracie Torrance." He goes, "Yeah, I train there too." He goes, and then so Rickson goes, "Oh, so you train there?" And Dave says, "No, I train there and here." Rickson goes, "So you train here?" And then Dave kind of caught what was going on and said, I mean, I had to make a split second decision, and he decided that at that moment he was going to be at Rickson's place because, you know, he started Jiu-Jitsu in Horian's garage in like 1986, and then I think it was 1989 when Rickson moved to the US, and that's when he started teaching Dave. And because of their schedules and all that, it was convenient for him to train there, to train with Rickson at Rickson's place. So that's kind of what he decided at that moment, to be at Rickson School. So he said, no, Rickson, I'm only with you. And then Rickson's like, "Oh, okay," and they just continued on. And ever since then, that's kind of how Dave's been. Now, well, that's just kind of the way I assumed it. So after that conversation, it made me, it lit a light in my head telling me, you know, how Dave is, you know, because Dave thinks the way Rickson does. If there's anybody who's Rickson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu who's not named Rickson Gracie, it's Dave Kama. So that's when I decided, you know, I'm only going to train with Dave. And you know, I really didn't want to train with anybody else. You know, I've been looking for Dave for years. When I left Rickson's place in the late 90s or so, you know, Dave had already come down to Laguna Niguel, and I'd always hoped that he'd come up to Rickson's Academy in West LA when I was there, but he never did. He kind of, not when I was there at least. But you know, from, you know, 98, 99, 2000, I was always looking for Dave. You know, I always wanted to train with Dave, but never could reach him. Back then, we didn't, you know, you didn't have Google and all that kind of stuff to find him. So once I did find him, started training with him, then I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to learn what Dave is teaching, and I'm not going to bother training with anyone else at that point in time. You know, I didn't even drop into other places. You know, I go to Hawaii and I train with friends back in Hawaii, but that was really because I might be on vacation for 10 days and, you know, want to get some training in. And these are guys that I knew from my white belt days. So I'd go to their academy and train, but, you know, for the most part, you know, I just thought to myself, you know, I haven't even learned everything Dave has to teach. You know, for me, there's no incentive for me to go elsewhere. But, you know, Dave's always been of the mindset that, you know, for KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu members, and if they want to go and train elsewhere, then, you know, by all means, do a drop-in. But as far as dual memberships, that's not anything that, you know, we've really been fans of. So, you know, I've had it come across my table a couple times. You know, people ask me about it, and I just kind of tell them, you know, how Dave thinks about it, and, you know, and then they just kind of go, okay, well, that's probably not something that you guys are into. So, you know, because like I said, you know, the issues earlier about the belting, you know, about who's your instructor, about what team are you competing for, those types of things. Hickson puts it in terms of, he sees every student as his family member, and he says he puts his heart and soul into their learning jiu-jitsu. And he said, if that person is training somewhere else, then in his mind he won't really feel like putting his heart and soul into you anymore. And I get it, and that does make sense. I do really take the training of my students personally. I really do give them everything I've got, and at least I strive to. And it's not wrong, for a student to want to train elsewhere. It's just that, it's not, I guess, optimal for us. And and then it kind of just lets me know that my teaching them is simply a transaction, and in that way, I'll get, they can be members, and if that were to happen, then then it just would be, it wouldn't be as fun for me as a teacher anymore. So me myself, I just think like the way Dave does, and I just do as he does in that way. So for those of you who are kind of wondering about it, if this is something that you can do, there's I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. I'm just going to give you the perspective for somebody on my end, on the other side of the transaction here. And then from there, just kind of take it for what it's worth, and, do what's best for you. And that's what I tell everybody. At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. Just like the way, instructor who decides that it's not in his best interest to have a student who has multiple memberships, how it's not in his best interest to turn you down. So anyway, I thought that that might be illuminating for some of you, because it is a question that does come up from time to time, and I hope this was helpful. So if any of you want to come visit any of our studios, just come by, let us know. And also, if you'd like to see the Rickson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu online, visit us on our website at KAATARO.com and sign up for a free trial. It's worth your time. And that site is evolving, and that it's growing by the day, by the week. We might have started off with about 100 videos, and I was saying now we probably have close to 300 videos on there, all showing stuff off of Dave Kama's Kama Jiu-Jitsu curriculum. And we actually, by the time you see this, we should have our mobile app up and running. We're just waiting on the last few steps of approval from Apple for the App Store. But I think we're about good to go on the Google Play Store. So come see us on there. It's well worth your time. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.